let's take a look here at using callback functions with the proper error handling syntax or convention, we should say, in JavaScript. So we're going to take a look at this function here called divisible by 3, which takes in an argument called a callback. But before we do this, let's take a step back and let's really get to the bottom of how this is going to work, right? So, and this may be a review, but we just need to we need to strip it down back to the basics so we can understand exactly what's going on here. So we should know now, if I have a function called my function and I want to invoke it, I simply type the name of the function with parentheses, and now I can do I can just go back to call the function. It'll say hello. If I want that function to receive an argument, so let's say I want to give it a name, right? And we're going to console log that name here. This. When I invoke it, of course, I'm still invoking it. How do I know that I'm invoking it? Because I have these parentheses. How do I know it's a function? Because I have these parentheses, right? This is the hint that what I have here, what my function is. If I didn't know what my function was, I know off the top that's going to be a function because I have these parentheses there. So if I want to call it like this, right, I can pass it the name Tom, and it'll say hello Tom. So whatever, in this case, whatever I put here is going to print out there. So if I put a number there, right, it'll show a number. If I put a boolean there, it'll show a boolean, right? It'll say hello in the boolean value. So we now know if we define a function, we invoke it by pressing the parentheses, and we can pass it an argument. Whatever variable that we decide to use there as the argument is going to be represented by is going to be equal to the argument that we actually pass, right? Okay, so we have the basics down. So let's come back to our test case over here. All right, so we have divisible by 3. It takes in an argument. We know that this argument is going to be a function. Now, I get that it's called callback, but this can be called anything, right? So this can be called X. It doesn't matter, right? But we know it's callback because with this little thing right there, we have the parentheses. So we're whatever argument this is something that we can invoke, so it's going to be a function. So we know it's a function, right? Now, where do we define this function? Right? Right here. So we're invoking this function right here, right? We know that with the parentheses. And inside of this, look at what I'm highlighting there. What I'm highlighting is actually another function, right? Now, maybe it's easier to do this. Const my callback. We're going to set that equal to that. My callback. Now, maybe something like this would be a little easier to see, right? So you notice now. So this is just an argument that we're passing to this function that we're invoking, and the value of it is this right here, right? So it's a little clear when you separate it, but sometimes we don't have that. We don't have that luxury, right? So let's get it back to the original format that we have here. So we know now, we were able to take that out. So we now know that this whole block, even though it looks confusing, it's just a function that is going to be represented in a variable called callback. So when I invoke callback, right here on line 7 and on line 9, I'm actually invoking this function right here. Now, so let's take a look at that function. So for JavaScript, the proper convention is when you're dealing with callbacks and error handling is to give it the error is the first argument, and then anything else is going to be second argument. Now this could be multiple arguments. You could have 10 arguments, but the first one should be, by convention, should be the error. Now, if you change that up, change the order, will it work? Yeah, it'll work. You just have to make the proper adjustments. But that would be considered bad coding. So let's stick to proper JavaScript convention here. So the error needs to be the first argument of the callback function, right? So we know if I invoke this function, whatever the first argument is that I give it is going to represent the error. Whatever the second argument is that I give that function is going to be represented by the word message, right? So if error happens, we're gonna console log error.message. Now, we're gonna create an actual error object. This is a built-in JavaScript object of JavaScript class that we're able to instantiate with the keyword new. This has a value of .message, which allows you to actually just print out the actual message stuff to the whole error object, right? So that's where this comes from. This message, the on line 17, that comes from this. That's the value of the second argument passed, right? So don't confuse those two there, right? So the message on line 13 is the same one on line 18. The one on line 15 is part of the special JavaScript object called error. All right, so let's see this callback function, right, being invoked. Okay, so let's just kind of go through the code here. It's good practice to read code. So this line right here, we're going to create a random number from 0 to 100, right? Math.floor is going to make sure we get a whole number there, and then the 100 is going to give us the constraints there. So from 0 to 100, actually from 0 to 99 probably. So it looks like it's going to be. Here we're going to check, is this number divisible by 3? If it is divisible by 3, we're going to go to this if statement here. If it's not divisible by 3, it's going to go to the callback. To the else statement. Now, let's look at the else statement for a second. So if it's not divisible by 3, we want to throw an error in this case, right? So notice new error. So this is just built-in JavaScript. You don't have to import this. This is already in the box, right, for you. So when you create this new error, you're going to get a special error object which has a value of .message, right? So that's what this is here. But look what we're doing. So remember, callback represents this right there. Is this function right here. So remember, the first argument is going to be the error. So here's callback. We're invoking it. We know we're invoking it because of the parentheses right there. And this right here, from the word new all the way to the little yellow parentheses right there, that's going to be considered the first argument. So because the way we're handling it down here, we don't actually need a second argument, right? Because we already know if error happens, just console log the error. We don't care what goes on after that. So that's why we don't need to pass the second argument, because we already have the error. That's going to stop the function from running. In the flip case, let's say it is divisible by 3, right? So if it's divisible by 3, we're going to invoke the same function. We're going to pass it a null value. So remember, because we have two arguments here, the first argument is going to be considered an error. If there is no error, we still need to put a placeholder for that. That's why we need to put the word null here, so we can make sure that the first argument is not considered an error. So for this argument is not considered an error. And then we're going to be looking for this. It's going to be the second argument there. So when we come here to the if statement, it'll say if error. If there's no error, it'll go here. If there is, it'll go here. All right. So let's run this, and let's to check it out here. Let's do lens. Let's see, lens. Right, and then we'll also add a did not. All right, so here we go. Let's run this. We saved it. We call callback 1. Did not false, right? So it went here. So we know it's going to be throwing an error. And so, oh no, it's not divisible by 3. So we know this is the console log that went through, right? So let's run it again and see if we can get lucky and get one divisible. Okay, there you go. This time it's true. So we ran this one with the null value, and then it just printed out that. So let's look what happens if we skip out the null, right? Because remember, whatever is expected here is going to throw an error. True and undefined. Why is that? So because this is now part of the first argument of the callback, it found an error. But then in here, it's looking for error.message. And there is no error.message here because this is just a regular string, thus showing undefined. All right. So there you go. I hope that clears it up a little bit for you guys. Callbacks, JavaScript callbacks and the error handling convention can be a little tricky at times, but the more you see it, the more you use it, you'll start getting used to it, and it'll all start making sense here shortly. All right, good luck.